Hey, this is Yasuki Wolf, and today we're going to be talking about perspective. Particularly, we're going to be speaking about perspective in ClipStudio Paint, because this is a really good software. I've been using it almost exclusively for my illustrations, and it's pretty much replaced Photoshop for me and my workflow. And part of the reason for that is because of the powerful tools that they use for that they give you for things. That they give you to use for things such as perspective. So today I'd like to go through some of those simple perspective tools that are available to you if you are a user of ClipStudio Paint. And if you don't use ClipStudio Paint, maybe it can substitute as sort of a basic perspective lesson as well. So first off, we're going to go through how you would generally approach drawing perspective if you were just using your average kind of digital illustration software, maybe Photoshop or whatnot, and without using any of the tools that are available in ClipStudio Paint. And then I'm going to compare that later to doing the same thing again with the actual tools from ClipStudio Paint. So we have our basic layout here, and the first thing you're going to want is you're going to have horizon lines. So maybe you'll use a straight line tool, or if not a straight line tool, maybe in Photoshop you could hold Shift as you're drawing, and that will make the line straight. But here I'm going to use a straight line tool and just draw a line across here, and we're going to call that our horizon line. And now I'm going to make a red dot for our 1 point perspective. I'll go into 2 point and 3 point a little bit later when we get into the ClipStudio tools, but for now let's just stick to 1 point. So the red dot is going to be our 1 point perspective, and going back to the line tool, actually make that black again. So say I want to have a cube that's kind of pointing toward that point, and about, well, we won't say a cube. It's sort of like a box-like structure. It's not going to be equal sides. So it's not going to be an actual cube, but you get the point. And maybe I'll draw one on the other side too. Slightly different size though. And yeah, that'll work. We'll stick with just 2 for right now. All right, so the next thing you want to do is, now this kind of like a outline. You can't just leave it with these lines all over the place. So you probably want to go through and either you're going to want to erase these with your eraser, or the other thing you might want to do is maybe you drop the opacity and make a new layer, and then go over the new layer in the actual parts that you want to keep as the actual structure or object that you're drawing in perspective. That probably actually may be faster. But now there's a couple things. I mean, this works. This definitely, and you will get your objects in perspective. But you may be noticing there's some things that are just kind of annoying about this. Like, one, I have to measure this every time. I have to make sure that I'm following this line, to get that perspective. And if I was drawing it for the first time, I would actually have to draw a line all the way from the point of perspective in order to make sure that I'm following the correct angle that I need to be in order to maintain that perspective. And so we delete that, and there we go, that works. But now if I want to draw another one, I would have to go back to, I'd have to open that layer up again, kind of draw more lines out from there, and then go through here. And it's somewhat time consuming. It's a lot of stuff that's just kind of annoying to constantly keep in mind. So to streamline that a bit, we have a number of tools here in ClipStudio that I like to use. So first off, if you look at the left-hand side, there is a ruler icon here just above the text icon. And there's a lot of different rulers in here, like a straight line ruler, a curved ruler, a guide ruler, all types of stuff. But the one I'm interested in is the second to the bottom. It may be different on yours, but this is the perspective ruler. And once you have that selected, so say I already have decided that this red point this red dot is going to be my my 1-point perspective. So I could then take this ruler and I'll draw one line pointing toward that red dot, and then I'll draw another line pointing toward that red dot. And once I let go, it's automatically set up that as my point of perspective. So I have this actual layer here. It's a perspective layer that you may be able to see on the right hand side here that I don't have to touch anymore. Like, it's already set. And so now, say if I don't have the guide layer anymore, let's just completely delete that, right? And say that I want to make another cube on top of this, I don't have to actually keep measuring this anymore. You'll notice that when I draw, so I'm not even using a line tool anymore. I'm using just my regular pencil, but it's automatically pointing those strokes toward the vanishing point. And so there's already with this guide right here, there's, I guess, 3 different directions I could draw a line. So if I could go horizontal, I could go vertical, and I could go toward the perspective point. And all those would just automatically lead toward that point. So, and here's one other thing I wanted to do, because before you saw that I had to do a lot of like cleanup work. So say on this what you call it, on this layer, I have these kind of points here that I have to go in with my eraser and kind of clean those up so that they're not stepping outside of the my words are not working well today. So that you know what I mean. You have to clean up these edges to make them nice and clean and neat and whatnot. Well, there's another tool that I've mentioned in some of my other videos, is that you have this regular layer, but you could also make something called what the heck was it called again? A vector layer. There you go. So if I click this one here, so here we have our regular layer, but then next to the regular layer there's something called the vector layer. And when you click on vector layer, you'll see that it has like this different icon here. If you see on the right hand side, the regular layer, there's no icon next to it, but the vector layer has sort of like this cube icon next to it. So now on this layer, the information is being stored as vectors, and that gives you a lot of interesting possibilities of stuff you could do. So I'm going to take this layer that we had underneath that. I'm actually going to turn that into a guide layer, or a stagaki. What would that be called in English? An outline layer, I guess. So if I click this this blue pencil here, it's already going to store that as an outline layer. So I think what that does is I think it prevents you from merging other layers into it. Yeah. So if I have another layer on top, I can't merge into my outline layer. It's telling you that this layer is an outline layer. That's not your main layer. And I think also there's an option when you're printing to ignore that layer when you're printing. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I believe that is the case. But I mean, just to be extra clear, I could also on the side here I could change the color of that to say red, so I know that's not something that I want to keep in my final print. Like, that's just an outline. And I mean, you could do that in Photoshop as well. You have the red layer. But the other thing that's really useful is here on the upper right hand corner here of these layer options. You may not be able to see on the stream, so let me actually move this over a little bit. There you go. So here you'll see there's like this blue and white colored box here. If you click on that, it automatically turns the layer blue, almost as if you had drawn it with a blue pencil. Those of you who do manga may know that a lot of times in manga you draw your work with blue pencil because blue pencil doesn't show up when you copy it on a copy machine usually. So that's why blue kind of signifies an outline for most manga artists. So yeah, I already have that as a blue layer. So now I know this is my outline layer. In case you don't like blue, and actually a lot of times when I'm doing a really complicated art, I may have various layers. So maybe the first layer will be blue, and then maybe another layer. If I had like another type of outline on top, I might actually change that to like red or a different color. To do that, you just click on this. You click on this arrow next to the blue and white square here, and it says layer color or subcolor. So if you click to layer color, it actually lets you choose your own color for it. So if I wanted to, I can make it red, or let's do like a purple maybe. So there you go. Now it's like a purple color. Actually, the purple's kind of over. It's kind of similar to the color of the perspective layer, so I don't really like that much. Let's change that back to, I don't know, like, let's just go back to blue. But so you can change the colors like that. So now I'm going to consider that to be my outline layer. And I'm going to go back over these again with the vector layer. And the reason why I love vector layers so much is I could go like this. I could draw lines way outside of, like way past where they need to go. I don't have to pay any attention. Just be like, just shoot the layers all over the place. Like, boom, boom, boom. There you got layer. We got. I said layers. I meant lines. So I have the lines that are shooting all over the place. It's a complete mess. But now, since they're vector layers, since it's a vector layer, and these lines are stored with vector data, I could just swipe through them with my eraser, and it erases the whole line up to the point where it intersected with another line. So it makes it really simple to clean this stuff up. And I could make my eraser a little bit bigger so I can catch them in one swoop like so. And it looks like I may have went a little bit way overboard with my chaotic line strokes. This probably should line up right here. There we go. But that's easy enough to clean up. And I think there was one on the other side too that, yeah, the other side too went a little bit too far. There you go. So that probably took a lot less time, and it's a lot cleaner than the last one I drew. So like this is the first ones. You see how they have all this kind of messy stuff going on here, and that took me quite a while to do. But now this one with the vector layer, it hardly took any time at all, and it's super clean. And if I want to draw another square on the top, I don't have to worry about like measuring out from the perspective line like that. I could just automatically start drawing, and it will automatically line those strokes up with the point of perspective. Clean that up a little bit. There we go. And we have our third cube in perspective. So you can see how that can be quite useful. Let's go ahead and put our horizon line in there as well, just for the heck of it, so that we could pretend like we're looking at a horizon of some sort. And so now that was one point perspective. If you want to do other types of perspective, those are also available. For those, you would go up to, I believe it was in layer. Let's see here, layer. Mine's in Japanese, so it's going to be hard to read, but it's a perspective ruler here, and then it has your, wait, is it? I think it says ruler and komawari. What would that be in English? Rulers and what is komawari in English? The way that you set up your manga page, like panels. Yeah, so like rulers and panels, I believe. And within there, that has the perspective ruler to create a perspective ruler. And here it gives you the options of 1 point, 2 point, or 3 point. So the last one was a 1 point perspective. Let's go ahead and do a 2 point. And you could actually adjust these things in the last one where we had 1 point as well. In the upper left hand corner, once again I'll move it so you can see, there's this kind of box here. And so when you click on that box and you click on object here, it's like the third one down on your toolbar. Once you have that selected, you could then click on the layer of where it made your perspective, and you should be able to actually edit it. Let me see, why is it not letting me edit? Why is it not working? I usually do this stuff at work, and this is my home computer, so the settings aren't set up quite the way. Oh, I think that's the problem. I think I had the white layer on top, and it was hitting that instead of the actual perspective. There we go. Okay. So once you have the this cube and the object selected, then you select your perspective layer, and you can click on that, and now you can actually adjust your perspective. So I could say I want this is the horizon line. Maybe I want the horizon line lower, and say now. So right now I have a vanishing point on this side and a vanishing point on that side. So what I like to do is I like to take these. Maybe I should explain what all these little dots and stuff mean. So the green dot in the middle is your horizon line. You can move that around like this, and if you actually want your horizon line to be tilted, I believe that's what these pluses on the left and right side. Yeah, you can pull that to actually tilt your horizon, either left or right. And this these little like diamonds, you should probably avoid pressing those. I don't really know why you would want to press it per se, but this turns this line on or off. So now it's green. So what you would see, actually, let's go ahead and make this straight again if we can. I wonder if I can just control. Yeah, there we go. So, for example, if I were to go back to, let's make a new layer, make another vector layer. Okay. So, if I were to draw right now, I can draw vertically, horizontally, or moving towards the perspective line to the right, or any lines moving toward the perspective line to the left, right? But if I go back to my perspective layer and click on this diamond, now you see that the horizontal line has turned green. And what that means is that now if I go back over here, now the I can't do a horizontal line anymore. So now the lines to the right, the lines to the left, I'm sorry, horizontal should work. Hold on. Why is horizontal not working? Oh, it must have turned off horizontal and vertical. Yeah, the middle one must do, yeah, so the middle one turns off horizontal and vertical. So as you can see, I cannot draw horizontally or vertically anymore. So maybe there's a reason why you would want that. I never would. So I just avoid pressing those diamonds as much as possible. But if you do find that one of them's turned green like this, just click the diamond again. It will turn it back on so that it will be functional again. Now you may be thinking that you might want to turn those off in order to draw something that's not part of perspective. So for example, if I had like this box here, right? Let's see, here's something like we have this little box here in our perspective. Let's zoom in a little bit. And let's see, I'm drawing this in perspective, but now I want to have like, I don't know, like a logo or something on the front of it. And I mean, of course you could kind of like draw like this and along the perspective lines, but maybe you want to do something that's not part of the perspective lines, right? So in that case, what you would want to do is if you hold Control and press 2. It's a kind of a weird combination, so I'll repeat it. It's Control and 2. Once you press that, it turns off the perspective. So now I can draw whatever I want, like I don't know, like circle, like a yin-yang sign or whatever. Nothing, anything is fine. And then if the moment I want to turn perspective back on, I hit Control 2 again, and it turns the perspective back on again. I use this a lot when I'm drawing things because, like, say you're drawing like some type of like a I don't know. Let's say you're drawing in perspective, but you're not doing like completely square shapes. So I would do like Control 2 to turn the perspective off, and then maybe I'm kind of like getting the outline of what I want to draw. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure what I want to do with this per se. Let's just say it's like a mask of some sort or something. I don't know. And then I hit Control 2 to kind of pull that back into perspective, and then Control 2 again to take it off. Control 2 again, go back. Control 2 again. So like I have no idea what I was drawing there, but you get my point where you might want to go back and forth a lot, where you're drawing in perspective and then you take the perspective off and then you put it back on again. And I actually I programmed the Control 2 as a different combination for my keyboard. So if you can do that, that may be a good thing as well. But for the standard setup is Control 2 to turn that on and off. So let's see, where were we? So we're back to the actual like perspective layer. Click down that again, and once again, like I don't know if there's some weird setting that I have right here, because I never really ran into this problem at work. But for some reason, if I click on the white area, it selects the white layer and skips the perspective. So that's kind of annoying. But there, if you make sure you click on the line of the perspective, it will select that. So now we have our little options again. So the blue dots, those are your perspective points, vanishing points. So you have 2 of those. And you can make those either go here or here. And this is the other really cool thing about this, is that so when you're doing stuff like in a regular program, what or even just on paper, what often ends up being a big issue is that you don't always want to have your perspective points on the actual paper. Like maybe I'm just drawing an object and I don't want, it's not like a landscape or anything. I'm just want to have like a 3D object of some sort. I may need to have these perspectives off the canvas. And the great thing about this tool is that you can pull them off the canvas. It's no big deal. And so now here we have the lines that are coming out from the perspective point. So we had that perspective point here. It has these lines coming out of it, and then there's a circle. The circle moves the line up and down, maintaining the perspective point as it's been established here on the right hand side. But if you don't want to maintain that point and you just want to move them freely, like say let's go ahead and turn control to the turn perspective off, and let's say we already have some sort of object here that we're, I don't know, let's say I'm just going to sketch it off as if it's in some sort of perspective. Actually, this might be 3-point perspective. That's bad. Let's see. How would I do that in 2? See, once I start drawing freely, it can very easily turn it into 3-point perspective instead of 2. All right, yeah, but well, this will work. Let's just say there's some type of object here, and we want to match our perspective with that. So, in order to do that, let's go back to the selector tool. Okay. So so as you can see right now, maintaining the perspective point that we have, I can't get this to line up. So you use these plus markers to the left and right to pull it in or change it however you want to actually match this line. So your line that match that one up with that, match this up with this, and you see it automatically adjust the perspective point to match where you're putting the lines. And you can do that on this side as well using the pluses. You can adjust the line, and then it will automatically bring the perspective point on the left side to match how you've established the lines there. So now I have my general perspective points and the horizon and everything set up the way I like. So now I could go in here and start drawing whatever it was I was drawing. I have to Control 2 again to bring the perspective back on. And what I actually like doing a lot of times is I actually try to make sure that when I'm setting up my perspective, I try to make sure that I can make some sort of object out of that. So these lines that we have here, I always try to just kind of put them in the shape of a box somewhat, so that I know more or less what the kind of perspective arena I'm going to be working with is. So now I go here and I could see, okay, so we know that the things I'm drawing are going to generally be in this sort of kind of a perspective box or whatnot. All right, so that was a 2-point perspective. And a 3-point is basically the same thing, but let's just go over it anyways. So back into, was it layers? Yeah, layers, and then rulers or panels, create a perspective, and we'll do a 3-point perspective. And this one might be a little bit easier to just kind of, well, okay, we'll do what I was saying earlier, where we'll grab these points and try to make sure we have like a box of some sort. And we have this up, maybe down. Nah, we'll have it up. Yeah. Yeah. Once you get 3 points, it gets kind of crazy. So many lines. But I don't know. Let's see what we got here. All right, so let me make these lines a little bit thicker so you can see. There we go. So it looks like we're looking up at some type of structure. There we go. Yep. So I don't know. I more time on. I think that's pretty much all there really is to it. I think I would like to do a more specific drawing of something in particular, like I think like maybe a castle, or if you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments, and I could kind of demonstrate the perspective more with a particular object. But that's basically how you use these tools. For the next video, I'd like to also give some tips about drawing things in perspective, in particular how to measure things to make sure that, like, you know, drawing things with spaced out evenly, or drawing things that like for example here, if we wanted to have a row of blocks that are all evenly spaced in the same size, like how would you do that? Other different like tips that you don't really learn right off the bat a lot of times when you're learning perspective, but that become very useful in the future. So I'll put that into the next video. But for now, I think this is long enough for this video, just to get the basics of how to use the tools available to you in ClipStudio Paint. Let me know if you have any other questions, or if I left something out and should fill in with another video or whatnot. Till next time, yoroshiku.